Does this look fun? So choose a color, kids. Red DOT? Green DOT? That's it. Couldn't even give me another primary color. What makes a good roguelike? To try to answer this question, I bought 5 new games. 3 well-received and 2 not so well-received. I started off with the well-received games because, well, can you blame me? I grabbed these 5 games. Wizard with a Gun, Death Must Die, Warm Snow, Into the Pit, and Merge Hero. God damn it. The first game I played was Wizard with a Gun. Nice try. Let me show you my spell. Alright, so in this game, you're a wizard, but you have a gun. This game was surprisingly linear for a roguelike. All of the progression, run to run, is based on building more bullets. Wow, these guys take their guns pretty seriously. Or I guess, not so seriously. The combat in this game came off as pretty clunky to me at first, but it did manage to grow on me. The enemy variety continues to expand the further into the game you get, even within the first zone, which was all I completed while I was playing. The enemy animations are pretty predictable, which is nice, and there was only one enemy that really irritated me. The gunplay seems like there is a lot of depth that I didn't really get super into. There are a ton of effect bullets that seem like they would add together really well, specifically for multiplayer. However, I played single player, and it felt like every time that I used one of these effect-specific bullets, it did just about nothing. My personal frustration aside, it seems like there's a lot of depth available for higher level combat. At first, I was very worried about the fact that the bullets are a finite resource, because I am personally not a big fan of running out of your tool for killing enemies while you're fighting an enemy. All in all, though, it turned out fine because there are always enough resources for you to continually craft more and more bullets. The problem is that sometimes those bullets are shit. My biggest gripe with this game is that they made everything resource management based or crafting based. I'm personally not a big fan of this, just in general, so I understand if it was tailored more for a different kind of gamer, but my issue comes down to there being a finite amount of inventory space, and everything in the environment is consistently broken down into its base materials. That means your backpack is always full. The premise of this game is that the world is ending, but because of the inventory management, you are always standing around in the middle of the apocalypse and moving around the rocks and scrap metal in your backpack. I will say, it is pretty cool that during fights, enemies will break down the environment the same way that you do. But then this circles back around to you constantly having a bulging backpack. I do understand that some people like this kind of gameplay, so I won't complain about it too much. The general run-to-run gameplay is based on the world ending and there being a timer. Every time you go into the overworld, you are playing until the world ends. And every time you go back, you put gears in a clock to go further back in time. I actually think that this is a pretty cool idea, and it's implemented relatively well. The timer can be extended via killing some enemies that will either appear on the map or spawn near you. The problem is that when the timer runs out, nothing really happens. It just rains some pink splooge and some circle guys will spawn next to you, but they don't actually move much, so it means like nothing. The best part of this game though is 100% the art and design. It's very charming. It's in everything. The little guys that wave at you when you walk past them, to the way the world is crumbling on the sides and how all the enemies are still cute at the same time as being semi-intimidating. I mean, look at this guy. His name is Billy Corn. How is that not funny? Who won't find that funny? The last thing that I haven't really talked about with this game is that there is a fully articulated base building mechanic, but it's only for aesthetics, so it's not really that big of a deal. Overall, the game was pretty enjoyable, and I will likely come back to it, but it's not really my cup of tea. All right, so the next game is Death Must Die. Hey guys, it's called Death Must Die. Why is the final boss Dracula? This game is like Vampire Survivors if it didn't play itself. It's got a good sense of style, but unlike Wizard with a Gun, it's not really unique and instead is a mashup of a few other successful games like Diablo, Vampire Survivors, and Hades. I think the thing that makes this game really good is that it takes the Vampire Survivors formula and makes it more engaging by adding the mechanics from the other games I mentioned. It's got a Diablo-esque inventory system, and you get a dopamine boost from how they drop in the middle of a run, and they give you similar buffs to what you would get in a game like that. Things like drop rates, luck percent, attack boost, and so on. The buffs themselves are pretty much a copy-paste of the way that Hades works. It's gods that give you themed buffs. You'll get 3 options of each buff, literally just like Hades, and they're all dependent on some part of your kit, things like random chance on hit, things on dodge, timed cast spells, on kill spells, and so on. Just like a game I may have mentioned in the way that Hades works. It's like Hades. One thing this game does right, though, is it gives you 3 reroll options within this buff system. You can either reroll the buff with the same god, change the god, or ban a buff from appearing entirely. This gives you a good amount of control, so it makes it so you don't get screwed over in the later parts of your run. It did also feel like I was getting blessings from the same gods pretty consistently if I already had them, but this could just be confirmation bias. The characters in this game feel a lot more unique than they do in Vampire Survivors. There's a knight, a sorcerer, a barbarian, a rogue, and a Scottish Highlander girl. One of these things is not like the others. The thing that's nice is that all their attack styles feel pretty unique. They all work better with different playstyles and different kits. The one thing I will say is it feels like there's one kit that just outshines all of the other ones, specifically where you summon a bunch of skeletons. But on top of this, there's also different playstyles for each character as well. You unlock achievements, and when you unlock the achievements, you get new options for passive buffs that are the basis for that character's playstyle in that run. My only major gripe about this game is it isn't really unique in any way. Everything that is good about it is just something from a different game style added on top of this game. It's like Hades. The way that Hades works. It's like Hades. That's not necessarily a terrible thing, but it makes it hard for the game to stand out to me. On top of this, the dialogue is pretty meh. Some is worse than others. The playable characters have text dialogue, which is actually really cute and charming. They use little text emojis that feel like fun caricatures of their classes. The problem is the gods.
Oh, I'm Summer, by the way. The goddess of all the hot stuff.
Bruh.
Their designs are pretty good, some better than others. The god of K-pop is my personal favorite, but their voice lines are a bit cringy at times.
Hot stuff.
And not in a funny way. This is something that might be more because the Hades dialogue has like Hades. The way that Hades works. It's like Hades spoiled me, and it's so close that I have to compare them. This is definitely a pretty minor gripe though, and in the end it doesn't matter that much. This is actually a really fun game though, and I do recommend it if you are going to take anything out of this video. The next game on the list is Warm Snow. Bro, why is this snow warm? Did you piss in this snow? Did you piss in this? Stop looking away from me. Answer the question, did you piss in the snow? Alright, I'm going to preface this section by saying that this game is a lot more of an action roguelike than the other games, and I personally am a much bigger fan of that style. That aside though, the combat in this game is so fun, and you look so cool. I mean, look at him! Look at him fucking go! This game is designed around a story that continues upon completion, just like Hades, but it's pretty unique, so it doesn't feel like it's a copycat and more like it's just using something that's known to work well. My favorite thing about this game is that at the start of every run, you choose a god. Each god has a unique passive style of play, and then on top of that has one of two unique play styles that utilize that passive buff differently. This makes for some super cool gameplay loops. The fire build felt super unique in comparison to the sword-specific build in a way that made the gameplay feel unique in each run. The combat is super crisp, there's ranged attacks, which is where this game really shines. You have 7 floating swords you can shoot and a timed ability to pull them back, which just feels awesome to pull them through enemies towards yourself. And the coolest part is the game knows that this is cool. It utilizes this specific ability differently with each playstyle, so you are just playing the game generally differently with one of the major mechanics. The way buffs work in this game are also really cool. They have the traditional consistent passive buffs that you earn in each run with pages in this game. Then you have items which give you a different ability based on which slot you put them in, but you can put them in any of the 4 slots. The weapons all have a guaranteed synergy with one of the items, which is really cool. Even though I never actually got it to work, it seems like an awesome way to make the game have a great power fantasy at the end. My only gripe with this game is that the late game items and buff seemed almost entirely useless by the time you get to them. If you're good enough to have gotten that far in a run, those items are basically useless. You've already fully built out all 4 of the items in your kit, and you have a good weapon pretty early. And then if you don't have these items early, you probably won't make it that far anyway. There are shops before every boss, which give you an option of items to buy. Hi. Are you smoking when I think you're smoking? Girl, is that opium? It's probably nice if you know what everything does, but there are a ton of items, so it's not likely that you would until you've played the game a lot. One of the cool things about this game is there are collectibles throughout the run. Each area has a different collection of them, and if you get them all for a certain area, you'll get a passive buff, which is unique to the ones that are purchased with between run currencies from this chick. The only problem with these is that they're in Mandarin.
听说，皇城的顶端长出了巨大的白色莲花。
Yeah, they're fully voiced, but I don't speak Mandarin. And the voice options are set to English, but they're still speaking Mandarin. This is generally my favorite combat so far, though. Hey, how's it? Bro, what is wrong with your hands? Have you ever heard of lotion? Let's go ahead and check my notes on this one real quick. The montages seemed like a good idea when the games were good. But I feel like I just made a 30-second lie. I spent 4 hours in this game that I will never get back. This game is painfully repetitive. Each room is the exact same thing every goddamn time. Walk in, wave your crusty ass hands around at some brain dead demons, and pop some weird crystals, rinse and repeat. It takes 20 rooms to get to a boss. 20 rooms! Sure, each room is like a minute-ish of fighting, but that doesn't include loading into the room, loading out of the room, choosing a buff, collecting all the pointless shit the game shoves down your throat like you've never played a video game in your fucking life. Yes, I let my toddler play this game about shooting demons filled with meat chunk galore. The reason that this game makes me sad is because it has the base ingredients to be fun, but they're all just undercooked slop. The movement is great. It's fast, it's easy to control, but the entire design of the game is fighting against you. It doesn't want you to move quick the whole time. It wants you to collect shit. It's like the game gave you a Lamborghini and only let you drive it in residential streets. The developers were like, so, okay, they're moving fast. How do we utilize this well? And some intern who's never played a shooter in their life was like, currency collection, but make sure it's like scattered and also that they are just useful enough that the player feels like they need to collect them. And instead of firing this intern, they made them the lead game designer. Oh, and don't worry, it doesn't end here. There are these crystals in every level, 1 to 3 of them. I think there were 4 in one of them. And you have to stand completely still, holding E to complete the room. But wait, there's more. You also have puzzle doors that require you to stop and scour the room for some purple platforms to open them. Fucking brilliant design. Okay, so the general vibe is god-awful. We hear you, chicken, but what about the combat? It looks kind of fun. All right, hear me out. It is fun for about 20 minutes before you realize that this metric truckload of buffs the game shoves down your throat in a run do absolutely nothing. Like, literally all of them are DOTs that are just different colors. So choose a color, kids. Red DOT, green DOT, that's it. Couldn't even give me another primary color. Cheapskates. All right, so on top of all of this, it makes your eyes hurt because the entire game is dark and all the particle effects are bright and chunky. Okay, so there are some small things that I liked. So now that I've thoroughly shat on the game, I'll say a few nice words at its obituary. One of the currencies the game gives you is blood, which after collecting a certain amount nets you another life. I think this is actually a pretty cool mechanic, forcing the player to decide between safety and the between run currency. Also, the one boss I fought really wasn't bad. I think it was the highlight of my time playing. Like someone put fancy cheese on a shit sandwich. The reason this game makes me so angry is because it could have been good. All they had to do was design the levels with the speed in mind. Instead of making someone stop and hold E every room, all they had to do was give you like 5 or 6 possibilities. Maybe a timed puzzle. Maybe you have to do a speedrunning platform section. You know, there's so many options that they could have done, and yet they managed to flop on everything. I could bitch more, believe me. But I'll cover more of it in my comparisons later, so onward. Time to merge. Sorry, folks. Couldn't make a montage for this game if I tried. This game makes me less angry than Into the Pit. Not because it's better, but simply because it has literally nothing redeemable. At least Into the Pit failed to use what it did right. Merge Hero doesn't even have anything to fucking use. Well, I wasted 5 hours on this game. Might as well talk about it. It's an AFK game through and through, except it doesn't realize it's an AFK game. In its identity crisis, it expects you to pay enough attention to it so as to restart the game whenever you die. Just keep playing yourself, you stupid fucking game! Seriously, it expects you to be watching this. It's not even funny. It's just sad. Okay, so Pixel Dude runs forward and swings his sword at pixel monsters. There's a little shop that you buy items and, you guessed it, merge them. Oh my god, he said the name of the game! We didn't think he could do it. What a god! Merge, 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 merge. The dopamine hit from merging a few items is nice. The 20 minutes or so it takes to get enough to merge them is not so nice. In fact, it's fucking awful. That's literally the entire game. Seriously, you earn gold, buy inventory space, random items, sell some. That's it. There are like 2 songs that I muted after 5 minutes because they play on repeat, and fuck is it painful. Seriously, for a game called Merge Hero, I spent maybe 5 collective minutes merging in my 5 hours of gameplay. Also, considering how long it takes to merge certain items later in the game, I got absolutely fucked when I died at the same time as I moved this axe, and it just disappeared into the ether, never to be seen again. I feel bad for the poor pixel artist. Imagine having this game in your portfolio. Hello everybody. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. My name is Chicken, and today I'm going to be talking to you about what makes the difference between a good and bad roguelike. But before I get into it, I just want to say, if you've made it this far, you're a real one. And thank you. I have one very important question for you. Will you subscribe? Alright, now that cringe is out of the way, I separated the things that make the difference between a good roguelike and a shit one into 4 categories. Starting with controlled chaos. Roguelikes, to an extent, use the same strategies that gambling does. They keep you hooked based on a set degree of chance. You see, I'm dumb, and my dumb monkey brain loves it when something randomly good happens. In fact, it loves it so much that it forgets all of the awful shit that happened beforehand, such as dying, this bullshit, and even playing this entire goddamn game. I can't believe I played this fucking game. Each of the games that I played utilized randomness to a different extent. From random buffs, items, maps, and so on. The problem is that total randomness is just not fun at all. Look at this game. Does this look fun? No. So what really makes a difference is when there's some kind of control over this chaos. This, I think, is the biggest failing point for Merge Hero. This game just didn't give the player any choice. Every other game that I played for this video at least gave the player some options, either through re-rolling buffs or giving you multiple options, most of the time both, to make it so that it felt like I, as the player, had some kind of part in a successful run. I felt like I was the reason that I was doing well. And the reason that I felt that way is because I was learning how things work, as opposed to in Merge Hero, where I felt like I had no control at all. Does this look like I'm playing the game? Because I'm not playing it. It's fucking playing itself. In gambling terms, a good roguelike is more like blackjack, 5-card draw, or Texas Hold'em. There is a semblance of player skill involved, as opposed to, say, a slot machine. The problem is, in a roguelike, when it's pure luck, it doesn't keep you coming back. It just makes you want to jump out a window or bash your head against the wall. Yes, it's flashy and fun for a bit, but it gets repetitive real fast. A slot machine doesn't require 40 minutes of your time. It requires you to pull a lever. My dopamine hit shouldn't take that long if all you're gonna do is roll the dice for me. No success feels impactful. The game grows repetitive and boring without a feedback loop of the player's own actions. The next thing on the list is balanced, goal-oriented challenges. What I mean by balanced is motivating and attainable. This is something that I think was missing from both of the poorly received games that I played for this video. Into the Pit had some challenges, but it was buried so deep into the game that I hadn't accomplished anything new within nearly 3 hours of gameplay. This made me feel listless. Even though there was plenty for me to do, like save the villagers, unlock more buffs for the run, unlock new biomes, fight new bosses, it felt like no matter how much I played, it wasn't going to be rewarded enough. Even after I did unlock a new biome, it felt so worthless that it trivialized all the effort and time I had put into getting there. Meanwhile, in Warm Snow, I was working towards unlocking entirely new playstyles, massive passive buffs, new items, and towards completing a compelling story. I think that story is a good motivator to get someone to continue to play your game, as long as the narrative is well balanced within the context of the game. I think this is where Wizard with a Gun shines the most. The story was fun and quirky. It influenced everything from the environment to the very gameplay. This makes a huge difference for me in regards to player motivation. I'm not motivated to watch Pixel Guy get further because I know nothing about Pixel Guy. Who is Pixel Guy? What is Pixel Guy's story? Why is Pixel Guy here? What did these poor slimes do to Pixel Guy? Hello, I'm Chicken. And today I'm here to talk to you about the plight of the slimes. Slimes are dying. They're being hunted down in their homes. They have little hope other than your donations. Please. Every cent helps. Even $1 can find a slime a new, loving home. My name is Chicken, and I support this message. There is some of this attempted in Into the Pit, but it has so little presence in the game that it feels distant and unmotivating. That, and the story is delivered through long text dialogue and notes found in the world. It's like learning an epic fantasy story through notes from a passive-aggressive roommate. Pretty lackluster when the story is delivered through the very environment and level design of other games. The last thing that I think is important in this section is that they be consistently attainable. Merge Hero had such a crazy curve by the end that I spent an hour and a half fighting this dude without getting any further. Does this look fun? Because it's not. The third thing on the list is a crisp, solid gameplay loop. This one seems a bit obvious, but It definitely reared its head while I was playing the two games that weren't well received. Both Into the Pit and Merge Hero just didn't have gameplay that was capable of supporting a repetitive loop. And personally, I think this is the weakest point of Wizard with a Gun. The gameplay and combat of a game designed to be played over and over again needs to be capable of supporting that loop. Otherwise, there is just no reason to play. You can try to target people's addiction to challenges and the dopamine that they get from it, but if getting to the challenge is not fun at all and is just a chore, no one wants to do it. And when I say chore, I don't mean simply difficult and repetitive. A game can have both of those things without being a chore to play. Warm Snow has repeating levels and is difficult, but it's still fun. Watching a guy run in a straight line is not fun. Holding E on the same node over and over again is not fun. Whoever said that this is an engaging gameplay mechanic should be shot. If I was making an honest montage about Into the Pit, it would look like this. Does this look fun? No. It looks boring. Because it is boring. This is where the sadness of Into the Pit comes in. It has the general gameplay. The movement is fun. The idea is fun. The design is cool. And aside from making my eyes hurt, it was a cool idea. It could have been a fun game if they had paid more attention to its strengths. Wizard with a Gun manages to be fun regardless of having a gameplay style that I'm not a fan of. Because it's just so well designed. It knows its strengths and it plays to them. And I understand that parts of Wizard with a Gun's loop that I don't like are things that other people like. But I like shooting demons. In fact, I love shooting demons.
How did you fuck that up?
Seriously though, a style of game designed around a repeating gameplay loop needs to be held up by, you guessed it, good gameplay. Wow. The last thing on the list is gameplay variance. This last thing really stuck out to me because of just how mind-numbing the two bad games were. The games out of these that I want to come back to have so many different styles of gameplay that I'm excited to try them all. There is something special about a new experience in a comfortable place. It's like new content in a game that you already know that you love. All you're getting is a new version of something that you already know that you like. When a roguelike has everything else on this list, you could play it until you beat it and be done. Still have fun, but it's not an amazing experience. But when a game has everything on the list and this, you have something that goes into your comfort food of games. Something that motivates you to complete it in new ways, to try new things within the context of the game. Warm Snow has so much of this. Different play styles, a story that continues on after you've beaten it. It makes me want to come back and try all the gameplay styles. It makes me want to learn what's happening. Wizard with a Gun has a ton of different bullet styles. It gives me so many ways of playing the game that I want to try. This, along with the fully articulated building mechanics, make it so that I can see why people would want to put a lot of time into this game. This is severely missing from Merge Hero and Into the Pit. Merge Hero is just a loop with different pixel art. Sure, it's not god-awful, but it's not good either. Why should I put my time into something that has so little variance or change? Into the Pit felt boring after less than 2 hours. I fought a single boss in the 4 hours that I played this game. It felt like it only had the illusion of variance, with different buffs and shooting styles for the hands that just ended up being nothing. So when you play a game with a repetitive loop of gameplay, it needs to have points of interest within that loop to keep you wanting to do it again and again. Well, this was quite an endeavor. I appreciate it if you made it here. It almost makes it worth playing Merch Hero. Almost.